Hello and welcome back again. We had a fantastic little fireside chat there. It felt like I was like having a little chat, over like a coffee and just sitting there drinking. Like Catherine was right there with her lovely cup of coffee. So I'm a bit jealous, Catherine. But it's great to have you all here and welcome panelists. And of course, it's day one of the GatherVerse Middle East Tech for Humanity Summit. My name is Russell. I am the Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse and also founder of Just Verify. And I'm going to be moderator for this roundtable discussion. And in this discussion, we're going to be talking about hyperlearning, the ethics of learning at scale, leaving no one behind. I think this is an absolutely extremely important topic to be talking about. And again, I'm here with my fantastic panelists. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a very quick introduction from each of yourselves. And then I want to hear as well also, why you're here today as well. So just add kind of like not too much pressure, just a little bit, but not too much. So a quick introduction from yourself, why you're here, and we'll get straight into the questions. So we'll start with Catherine, we'll go over to Alan, and then Halak, I think that's how you say your name. So over to you, Catherine.
Yes, thank you, Russell. And it's great to serve on this panel. Again, I have to say, I'm a huge fan of GatherVerse because of these conversations we've been having and the questions that I get to prepare for. I'm a principal investigator and founder of Screen 360 TV, and we want to scale through the time zones so that we can find new learning spaces between the time zones. And Screen 360 TV presents short international films in the film festival model. And there's so much learning that comes from international cinema, as I've seen in the Berlin Film Festival for 30 years. And I want to say something that I am particularly excited about in the Middle East is that in Saudi Arabia, the 35-year ban on cinemas was lifted in 2018. And now there are more than 600 screens in Saudi Arabia. So, and that means there's a burgeoning film industry as well. So film is extension of culture and its communication, especially when you do it in the film festival model with discussion. So I'm excited for our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Catherine. And also, if you could give me a cup of like coffee or tea, that'll be fantastic as well. Just being a little bit cheeky there. Alan, please welcome and introduce yourself.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, hi, Alan.
Hi, my name is Alan. I'm the founder of Studio Bahia. A few years back, I founded Studio Bahia, response to children as young as 9 years old committing suicide, self-mutilation in refugee camps. And so I have a background at the World Bank. I did large-scale international programs, social programs in impoverished countries, impoverished regions. And so I developed a model of using kind of a Google Cardboard approach for distraction therapy, and specifically to try to give distraction during a peri-traumatic stage of refugees fleeing conflict. So these are our headsets. We manufacture them. This is our team.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, nice.
So incidentally, we're successful in hospitals. So hospitals purchase our headsets, and they're all over the world now. They're used for pain management, distraction therapy. Comes in a little lunch case. These are our headsets.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like that.
We have a buy one, give one. So when hospitals purchase one, we donate one to refugee camps. We're donating to homeless veterans, to foster care and low-income hospitals. And so that's our work. I'm very happy to be here today. I think it's a very timely subject, what we're speaking of today. So thank you, Russell, and good to see everybody.
Thank you for joining us, Alan, and lovely items there. I mean, I'm kind of jealous that I haven't got one, but anyway, that's another discussion. Abrahelek will come over to you, and then Dr. Venugar will come over to you next, and then Jay after. So welcome.
Hi, Russell. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure. I am Abhilek Verma. I am the director for Abhilek Verma Consultancy. And currently, I'm based out of Hyderabad, India. And I have actually traveled a lot of countries this year. fascinated with AI. I'm doing mentorship with Microsoft, Google, IBM, Alibaba, and a lot of places as well. So it's fantastic to see how AI has really transitioned and have moved around in terms of hyperscaling and stuff like that. But of course, there are a lot of things to discuss around, and that's what I do with jobs, internships, and trainings on the ground level as well. And I really love social enterprises, support a lot of startups and a lot of NGOs as well, with a lot of ideas on training on the front as well. So it's a pleasure to be here fourth time. So yeah, I mean,
Whoa, okay. You're like racking up, aren't you? You're like, I'm coming here. Do you know what? I'm going to set up my tent here and I'm just going to live here.
Right, absolutely. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it's lovely to always have great discussions, great panel sessions. So yeah, thanks for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. And you don't mind if I call you Verma? Is that okay? Just to make things easier.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, thank you. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Verma. Doctor, please introduce yourself. Welcome. It's a pleasure having you. Good to see you again. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Russell and Catherine and Ellen and Verma and Jai. Basic purpose of associating with GatherVerse. The name itself is defining that it is a gathering of excellent brains who is thinking about the upcoming trends of the technology, how the technology is going to be part of our life, human life. So always, in my career, I always choose the career as a profession and the life. So I move according to the technology, which is going to influence of our life.
Mm-hmm.
So any technology comes in the society, we have to bring society to be educated first, how the technology can be utilized in their human life. Means it is a part of everyone, taking
Mm-hmm.
into the rural area to urban area, from scientist to the farmer, and also a rickshaw puller, a auto driver. Because today, if you see that mobile is got a lot of innovation, we can see mobile without any human being on this planet is into the 1940, 50s. So the technology is a part, and it is a combining, the world, it is a connecting together the technology. That is the beauty of the technology.
Doctor,
In 90, yeah.
Sorry to jump in, Doctor. Can you please introduce yourself, who you are?
Sure.
We want to know who you are, Doctor. We love everything you're talking about, but we want to know who are you, Doctor? What about yourself?
Yeah. So that is where I've been started my journey as a now currently developing the applications, integrating with healthcare, education, logistics, and transportation, like SAP integrations, how it will be. And next is that educating to the community. That is what I am doing. And the literacy program have been started. Our target is 50,000 students should be educated on the basic fundamental things on the AI technology.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We got there in the end. Thank you for joining us. Absolute pleasure. And last but not least, Jay, welcome, my friend. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on these. Been on a few other panels, and it's really exciting to see humanity come together around technology and ask these vital questions. So I'm Jay Schnorr. I'm founder of VEDX Solutions. That stands for Virtual Education Deployment and Exploration in the U.S. And what we do is system integrate XR at scale for companies, job training centers, and schools.
Incredible, Jay. And that was short, straight to the point, sweet. Really like that. So thank you for joining us, Jay. And I'll also quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell Bundy. I am the co-founder of Just Verify. I'm also director of partnerships at GatherVerse and at Just Verify. Our mission is to verify the integrity and trustworthiness of AI models to ensure their responsible adoption. And our long-term vision really at Just Verify is to create a future in which everyone can trust AI. So we're kind of like the verification and trust, I guess, if you want to call it that in a nutshell. And also, I'm director of partnerships at GatherVerse as well. So I handle all the sponsorships and the lovely collaborations and partnering with everyone to make humanity better for GatherVerse, but also for communities around the world, humanity around the world, and all the amazing people that are here with us today. So that's it from me. Now let's get straight into the questions. So question one is, what exactly does accessible learning at scale mean for humanity? So I'm going to start with you, Alan, because I know you're a bit surprised that you're like, who, what? No, I really want to start with you, Alan, because I think you have some very unique insights when it comes to this. And then also I would like to bring you in and Catherine in this too, bring in the film angle on this, and also any sort of your own personal expertise when it comes to AI as well. So Alan, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. I guess I can share my experience. We were founded Studio by in approaching large mental health crises and trauma in refugee camps. So we had to look at a scalable approach. So the way we designed is we made all our apps that are VR mobile apps, we made them so that they operate without Wi-Fi. So refugees would walk to the tower and they could download the app. And we would do one experience per app instead of, just all a bunch of experiences in one app. And so they would be able to do this. They'd go back to their tent with our headset and they'd be able to do different relaxations and do them in their tent and do it without the need for Wi-Fi. And that's the scalable model that we look at. We work in low resource settings. So I guess this question is very pertinent to us. We're now building what is EMDR. It's a type of gold standard therapy. And we're building with a small language model. And so instead of using large language models, we train a small language model that operates without Wi-Fi on your mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to then, the refugee or people in distant outside of conflicts are able to download it, and they're able to process their trauma, which greatly reduces the rise of PTSD. Because refugee camps, you have like 40% PTSD compared to, say, the United States is less than 1% PTSD rates.
Oh, okay. That's high. That's really high. Yeah.
So the same model that we're using, we're also using it in hospitals, and we'll be using it in burn clinics. And so the idea is if you're able to process your trauma within 72 hours, we'll be able to reduce PTSD rates somewhere between 50, 85%. So most people that go to a hospital don't know that about 15% of them come out and develop PTSD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
And about 40% develop depression from a severe medical. And so if you're able to process trauma within that peri-traumatic stage, you reduce PTSD significantly. Sadly, most hospitals don't think of people's mental health. They just look at the biological side of
the
people.
Physical side. Yeah, that's true.
So we take that approach, and it's kind of all following in a way thanks to DeepSeek, which kind of provides what is a bottom-up approach to language models. You can now have your own language model in your home. I've owned companies before. You could have it in your company in the basement, have your own system. And if you're a small business, medium-sized business, DeepSeek was like the best thing of 2025, as opposed to kind of an American model, which is kind of a feudal system where you have a centralized corporation. And then you have this feudal system, and we're all kind of plugged into it. And it kind of, and then it sells all your data and all your questions, and does all sorts of, unethical things. But so I think DeepSeek kind of changed the world. It's probably the most significant development in 2025. And I think for education and for today's subject, I think it's very useful because educational institutions, schools will be able to develop their own AIs based upon their own pedagogies and continue probably take upon new pedagogies instead of a Western-centric pedagogies. And so I think for the world changed in 2025 thanks to that bottom-up approach, I'd say.
No, I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent, and then also just thinking about it off the top of my head as well. I mean, there's over 1.8 million models in the world that are and that's just recorded, by the way. That's not including all the models that are not even recorded, right, or any personal use ones. So I think if you think about the amount of models that are out there, I mean, we're talking who knows, tens of millions by now. So if we've got that many models out there, we need to be able to have ways to be able to have them on our own devices and different like that as well, which is what you're saying. So I think that when it comes to accessibility, that's extremely important. So Catherine, from your side of things, on your lens, what does like, what exactly does accessible learning at the scale for humanity mean from your point of view, Catherine?
Oh, good. Thank you for that. And Alan, we have to talk afterwards. We tested Screen 360 TV initially at Lucille Packard Children's Hospital some years ago. And we can talk about that afterwards. So that at scale, learning at scale means, I think, accessing those networks that are already laid down. And those could be networks of desire to learn. The Danish Film Institute says that young people all want to know what their peers in the world are doing. And that's something that Screen 360 TV really builds on. And I've mentioned in panels before, there are 350 million playing Fortnite through international hubs. And we did our own survey of 64 high school students. And we asked them if they had had international experiences through playing the game, that their Fortnite was many of them, others, other games as well. 60 out of 64 had experiences, and they were able to relate those experiences vividly. And so in my research, looking at what we remember, i.e. what we learn, are those momentous learning events where distinctive experiences happen. You hear a fresh language, a new language in it, and you hear a cognate, and that forms a bridge to that language. So you're excited about learning another language. With the exposure of international films, which is what Screen 360 TV does, we offer a window and an opportunity to reduce the fear of the other. And I think that is what is super important in this world of, in this period of great migration. And when there's fear of war and economic migration, we all need to embrace what we have and share it. And one of the most beautiful things came out of American history, and beautiful things came out of the horrible part of our slave history. Each one teach one. It was the rule of formerly enslaved people that when one learned to read, it was their duty to teach another one. So Screen 360 has expanded that to when one travels or has an experience outside of their culture, it's their duty to talk about it. So each one, reach one, since we have this extreme reach now, and we have the technology to reach our peers and learn from them and learn together and teach each other. So I'll end with that. So those networks, those invisible networks that exist, need to be activated.
Completely agree. And even Salvation is put in the comments right now going, I agree, Catherine. So
yeah, Salvation.
Thanks for your comment, Salvation. And also thank you, Catherine, for sharing your thoughts. And no, I do completely agree with everything that you are saying. It makes me think when you talk about like traveling and talking about going to different places, it just makes me think, when I, speak into, my friends and they're asking about, what was it like in like Portugal, or what was it like in this place? And you're explaining about it. It's very interesting when you get to talk about different cultures and different things to your friends and family, because they kind of get the feel for it. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll have to go there myself and experience it one day. So,
if I can just add very briefly, when you do that, when you have a simple conversation and tell someone what you've done, you're reinforcing the memory, the cognitive impact of that event. And so you're relearning. And if we learned how we learned, we might learn more.
Agree,
Dr.
Catherine.
Seuss said.
All right, thank you for joining us. So next question is, how can we prevent hyperlearning from deepening divides between the privileged and the marginalized. So we're going to bring the almighty Verma into this, and also we're going to bring in the amazing Doctor after that, and then Jay will head over to you very shortly on the next question. So don't go anywhere, Jay. Don't want to see you running off or anything like that. So Verma, please, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think one of the key things what I see with preventing hyperlearning from deepening divides is to first understand where the critical gap is. Okay, so it could be sometimes not everyone has those access to affordable devices or maybe digital literacy programs, right? So there has to be equitable policies so that let's just say there are marginal voices, right? So those could be included in the curriculum design and platform governance, right? At the same time, we have to prioritize the needs of disadvantaged groups, okay, so that hyperlearning can truly uplift rather than just excluding or fostering a level playing field in education, right? And when we have everything in set up in place, let's just say the support systems, community outreach, and let's just say adaptive technologies, so these can bridge those access gaps, and that's how we can really deepening the divides, because at the end of the day it's all about reaching more number of people, but also getting things done in a limited time using AI. So of course these are my thoughts, and I would really recommend everyone to talk about inclusivity always. That's also highly recommend every time.
I think also making it accessible, like having, as in like when it comes to open source and closed source models. I mean, I know, ChatGPT is very closed source, and obviously, people like, oh, the data, oh, like, trading the data and everything, which I completely understand. I get that point. But if you're talking literally just, focusing on the accessibility standpoint and at least just getting people into AI, so to speak, ChatGPT and these other Gemini. I mean, you got Perplexity. You think about all the different sort of platforms out there. At least it gives them a gateway to even just be able to play with it and test it, and then they can then kind of go more and deeper into the open source models like Qwen and DeepSeek and all those other models that are on over 1.8 million of them, as I said before. Then it's. I think that's kind of like it's like that stepping stone, so to speak, to those more advanced models. Does that make sense, Verma?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are different models, and believe me, all these models, as we're talking, I am always engrossed and working on those models. So of course, they have to be very well utilized. At the end of the day, we have limited time, as I say. But of course, the marginalized voice, they have to be included in the designing part and governance as well. And that is what I really want, so that we don't deepen those divides. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, and it also makes me think about a use case that come out recently where they did a study on like women's health, and saying about like how these models aren't able to diagnose women's health properly or effectively because they've left women out of the sort of creation of the models. And there's obviously issues going around that when it comes to bias and that standpoint. But anyway, thank you very much, Verma, for sharing your thoughts. Doctor, you've heard what we've been talking about. You've seen and heard our thoughts and everything. What is your thoughts, Doctor?
Thank you, Russell. I'll focus on hyper, the word we are using, hyper first. The concept should be clear. The hyper means stay relevant and meaningfully working in digital age. Because whatever we are doing, it should be meaningful in the digital age. That is what we are calling as a hyper learning. First step. Next comes that from where this hyper learning came from, because we adopted from hyper learning. What is the purpose of hyper learning is that new way of beginning, how we start. That is what in the AI era, how we want to start the technology in our thing. Next is that the new way of working, when we are using that AI, how the working style is changing compared to before 2025 and 2025 to 2050. Because I'm not going to go deep into technical, because Verma and other are, DeepSeek and other technologies are there. This is the fundamental accept. The hyper learning is that one is that mindset, first of all. End user mindset and society mindset should be in the hyper learning mode. Next comes that behavior. human behavior should be according to the technology. Third comes a daily practice, the technology in our learning. This system is called hyperlearning. This is what my take.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I connect all the points. I see what you're saying, Doctor. Don't you worry. I call on to that. Don't you worry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think that's very smart. And yeah, I mean, when it comes to, I mean, everything is hyper these days now. Like when it comes to learning, like learning how to use a new tool, learning how to use a new AI, how to use a new open source model, how to use a new closed source model, how to put AI onto your own device. You know, we can think of all the different ways in which, you know, hyper learning's being done, Doctor. And I completely agree with you. Like it's moving that fast that we have to hyper learn in order to keep up with the hyper innovation, so to speak, of AI. You know, so I completely agree with you. So thank you very much for sharing that, Doctor. And Jay, let's bring you into discussion. You've heard everyone been speaking. Also myself, and you know what my thoughts are. But I got a question for you, Jay, which is: does hyper learning sacrifice depth of learning for speed? Very interesting question. What are your thoughts, Jay?
I think that it's the opposite.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. I did not expect that. Okay, please share.
I think the access, the hyperlearning is efficiency, and the access to the information, valid and ability to ask questions, but also the fact that as the AI tutors and things become more evolved for students, educators to use in their classroom, I think it's really important that that hyper learning is also accompanied with a Socratic way of asking the learner to come back with questions consistently. So it's not a search engine, right? This is the ability now for people to be challenged at at their level, where they're at. You know, I'm a big follower and proponent of Khan Academy in terms of Solomon Khan just released a book, that Brave New Words, and I think if everybody on the panel, everybody in the world, every educator should read it. It really does hit home to this fact that for the industrial learning era, we've had to learn a lot of information and memorize it. And every time you move up in a course, you don't have course mastery because there's not time or efficiency in that information transfer for every level of learner. But if that learner along the way can have mastery when they get to the higher subjects, so hyper learning, that mastery is going to help them be the creators that human potential has within us all. This AI is a tool. There's a lot of dangers. We've talked about, not just today, but in panels and everything, about who's creating the AI and who's doing the teaching and the learning and all of the different models. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to use it in learning and training in this hyper learning environment, it has to be equipped to challenge the learner for where they're at and help them with their mastery at every stage. And I think that that's a really important piece. And so that's why I think it's the opposite from speed, is efficiency. And Socratic style is actually going to help us all learn faster. Instead of being confused and trying to move forward in our current industrial models of education, students have a chance to actually have mastery with these tutors alongside of them, and the educators being facilitators.
I mean, we talk about, you know, hyper learning and, you know, AI teaching us, and obviously us learning from AI and everything like that. And, you know, teachers need to, you know, learning from teachers, etc. But, you know, let's fast forward this. Let's say we're on the frontier right now. So let's say we fast forward this to 3 years.
Okay.
And, you know, we're talking about the times when, you know, the robots are around and stuff like that. Is it going to become that instead of it being an AI tool, it becomes an AI species that's teaching us, right? Instead, right? As like the robot will be teaching us, you know, whatever it is that you want to learn of. I don't know what lessons that you do, but would it be the robots that will be teaching us, or would it still be human involvement in that, as in it will be human and robots doing the hyper learning, or sorry, the hyper teaching, so to speak, in this scenario?
I think we have a decision to make, and I think that if you turned it completely over into asynchronous machine teaching, you've lost the humanity of creation and creativity. This is a tool like a hammer. When we're building, you've got to decide what nail to hammer in or what page to print for the printing press. This is a tool. Now, if we try to automate it to try to take the human component completely out, we are creating something that is a monster, if you will. I think educators are fearful of this scenario, but in reality, if you can have AI as a tool for an educator, take a lot of rote things and really help students master the concepts, and they are using it as a tool, it's phenomenal, because the next generation, the alpha generation, now will need to be creators more than memory deposits for the information we've expected all of us to know to this point. So we've got to now focus more on what we all love as a value, which is creativity. We are creators in our mind and our imagination. And so AI allows us more space to do that creative work. And we've got to focus our legislation, our direction, these GatherVerses, our conversations, to know that we can use this as a tool and is not meant to be a replacement.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts there, Jay, and thank you for going with me as well on my little scenario there. But I just wanted to throw like a little side question, just to make it a bit more interesting. So I appreciate it, and great response as well, Jay. So the next question is, we're going to bring Catherine and Alan into this fantastic question, and I do think about sort of like the future, like how I was just talking with Jay and AGI and ASI and everything like that. But let's just kind of like rewind back and come to now, which is, what does consent look like in education systems where students are tracked, monitored, and analyzed at scale? So we're talking about permission. Well, like I was talking earlier, Alan, actually thinking about it, right? We were talking about ChatGPT and using the data to train its models and everything that you speak about within ChatGPT, etc. So, Catherine, let's start with yourself. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think it's really exciting. Let me just backtrack a little bit to agree and build on what Jay said. It's a very creative time, potentially, and especially when new cultures collide, new knowledge comes out of that. And so there's a great potential for creativity across borders. Imagine two kids on a call, Screen 360, for instance, two students have a similar idea and they say, yeah, let's work on that. Screen 360 will put them together so that they can collaborate across cultures. And so what I see in this period of where they're tracked, monitored, analyzed at scale, they can agree to be researchers. I see a league of young researchers, and that's very much in the model of Rudolf Steiner, Waldorf schools, where they put together a portfolio of learning. And so they're out there learning what they want to learn. And they're building such confidence in learning. And then when learning together with someone across a border or down the street, what we call international peers, near and far, they have that capacity to resonate and connect and cohere socially like they have never before. So I'm excited, again, about making extrinsic these intrinsic pathways.
That's very interesting, actually. And then you think about like the new devices coming out, right? Like Hold up a sec, Catherine. Don't you might get. I'm trying to talk to you. No, I was gonna say it's very interesting because you think about the new devices coming out like VR headsets and also let's say Meta's glasses, for example, with Ray-Ban, right?
Mm-hmm.
Incredible device like that they made there. I think they're doing great innovation when it comes to VR and XR and AR. But then when you think about these new devices coming out and the sort of internet creativity with these new devices, etc., and AI being put into them, it's like a crazy new world we're sort of going into. Not just like own AI only, but even like these other technologies combining with AI, right? That's where it's getting even more crazy, right? When we talk about the generative models, when it comes to creating films with generative models, but also just the integration of these new devices. So when it comes to students are tracked, monitored, and analyzed at scale, with these new devices, how do we get that consent? Like with a VR glasses, for example, like how do we do that with those sort of things,
Yeah, well, you ask up front and you inform about the research that you are doing and try and present that vision, that long-term vision of why you are collecting this information.
Okay.
And feed it back. You have to give a loop and show those students what they've just participated in. Screen 360 wants to present feedback as moments of empathetic connection. For instance, when a teacher signs up, they sign up with their students, and their profiles are questions like, how do you get to school? What is your favorite aroma? And there's a drop down of baking bread, my mother's kitchen, flowers. How do you like to fill a page with paint, words, comics, collage? So these are creative questions that they enjoy responding to. And then those are fed back to them at the end of our session. It says, 5 of you come to school by boat, and 7 of you love the scent of fresh baking bread. So these are moments to link empathetically on making the learning event more momentous and making the learner more curious about the people that they just collided with and watched a film with.
No, that's incredible insight, and I think it's amazing. It's just so interesting, fascinating, and I honestly I could go all day speaking with you about this, Catherine, but we do need to jump around to other panelists. So thank you very much, Catherine. And I saw Jay nodding throughout that, so he's in a lot of agreement with you there. Also, I just wanted to quickly. There's a comment that came in from Immediate Tiger. He said, "I'm pretty sure that everyone here thinks 99% of the people outside this webinar are using AI. Of course, they are studying 24 hours a day, only Einsteins." Immediate Tiger. I don't know what your comment there, but anyway, thanks for your comment, Immediate Tiger, and sharing that. So, Alan, let's bring the question to you. What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Please share.
Yes, it's a great question. Education systems, for example, let's just say that you have been accepted to Harvard, and you join Harvard. You've already signed consent to operate by their systems. You're basically someone under surveillance, tracked, you're scored, you take classes and so forth. And okay, so once you're under there, they did a study at Harvard where they took a very well taught course, a really tight operation. It was physical sciences too, right?
Okay.
It's been taught over years by the best professors. It's got the best assistant professors. It's a fine-tuned operation, that course. Students who take it, they learn a lot. This is Harvard, it's quality. And so they decided to add an AI tutor. And they never expected that the outcomes. It turned out that students learned twice as much with the tutor in a shorter period of time.
Oh,
twice as much. So this is like the best educational university, the best course with the best scientists and assistants and everything in there, the full spectrum of the best in the United States. And then you add the AI tutor, and the engagement doubled, the learning doubled in a shorter period of time in physical sciences. So even the very best by Harvard benefited from having all the students have an AI tutor that also tracked them, that monitored their development, that analyzed their learning, where they need a little bit more support, where they need a little bit less support, where they're more engaged. And so I think educational systems are going to remain. They're not going to disappear. But I think educational systems do well to develop AI systems within their existing pedagogies, their existing structures, so that students become more engaged, learn faster, and those courses obviously produce much better outcomes for students.
No, I completely agree, Alan. And yeah, I mean, that's just such an interesting study. It really is. It's such an interesting study that they've done there. And again, Jay was nodding his head throughout the whole thing. He's like, yep. I see you nodding all the time, Jay. But what I'm going to do is, because we're running out of time here, so we haven't got time for the rest of the questions. So what I'm going to do is basically just, 60 seconds or 30 seconds from each of yourselves, and we can just go around the whole roundtable so that we can get everyone's input. When it comes to education, hyperlearning, ethical, when it comes to learning, 30 seconds, what would you like to see when it comes to learning, hyperlearning, when it comes to AI? So we'll start with you, Jay, then we'll go to Dr. Verma, Alan, and then last but not least, the fantastic Catherine. So over to you, Jay.
I guess the technology is moving faster than our facilitators can keep up. And so I think that that's one of the very first things to address. And one of my long-term goals and missions in starting this company was to actually build immersive learning centers in every state to help build this professional competency of our educators and trainers at companies, that they can come to these learning centers, see the technology in action, see a school in action, possibly have a C-suite leased office, have private events, so that this bleeding edge of technology can be experienced. Because right now we're out here preaching OpenAI has, or ChatGPT has allowed people to access AI and just scratch the surface, and not really, because it's moving so fast, how do we make a sustainable model from this? And when do we dive in, and how deep do we go? And how do I apply it to my school or my company without endangering some of the unforeseen consequences that long-term studies take to have, but also move fast enough so that I can take advantage of some of these things we talked about in deep immersive learning, the ability to double knowledge. I mean, so for me, I look years down the road, and I think every student should have access to a personalized tutor in a private server that is connected to their level of learning. And again, when we talk about access worldwide, this comes down to connectivity. It comes down to Alan's small AI models that can be held on a phone. Like these are important aspects for access. But I think that every student should have access to both a learning tutor, and even as adults, as we get older, and I want to learn how to be a better CEO. I want to learn how to be a better manager.
Jay, I'm going to have to jump in.
Went too far.
I said 30 seconds. Like, what's going on, Jay?
I went on. So yeah, that's my view.
No worries, Jay. Thank you, Doctor. Please share your thoughts on hyperlearning and what you would like to see in the future when it comes to AI and hyperlearning. 30 seconds, please, Doctor. Try not to go too long because we're running out of time. So,
because whatever we are doing in this students, the way of monitoring, tracking, and analyze and scale. If you talk about these 4 parameters, one is that continuous learning is required. Because in 1960s, 70s, once you learn, graduated, it's enough. But today it has to be continuous learning is required, irrespective of the age, irrespective of the grade, and college and schools. That is the one. Second is that rapid process of learning. That's what in online courses, short-term courses are there, 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. You undertake the course, assess yourself, and add the skill. That is what a rapid skill. Another thing is that one should also know that what is, not to learn. See, always we are talking about learning only, but which is not required. That is also essential to decide which skill is not required for my performance. That is the one thing.
Doctor, I'm going to have to jump in again. I'm sorry, Doctor. You're going too long. Verma, please, 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Doctor. Thank you so much for sharing. And Verma, 30 seconds or less. What is your hope for the future for hyperlearning? Be very quick, please.
Sure. I think just to be precise, I think one of the key things which I see with hyperlearning is to foster responsible leadership, right? So here the goal is not to just develop, have competent individuals, but also be a compassionate change maker, right? Because you should solve global challenges with integrity and inclusivity, as I mentioned earlier as well. And with digital learning environment, what I can see is we can facilitate collaborative projects, social impact, simulations, and leadership role play. So the idea should be to nurture responsible leaders by making such great empathy and ethical reasoning and all those civic responsibility, everything in place, so that we can help each other grow and also, practice the responsible leadership. So those are my last minute thoughts.
Thank you very much, Verman. Thank you for keeping that very on point. And 30 seconds. Alan, over to you.
Thank you. I was just thinking that right now our relationship with AI is it's a short-term thinking relationship. They respond rationally. It's not a long-term relationship. It's a very scientific Western way of engaging a machine. Ask a question, tell me, and that's it. So I think looking forward, I'm imagining non-Western models that are more related to kind of communal learning, where the engagement is different, and spiritual pedagogies, kind of a master apprentice models as well, in tutorship, long-term models in a sense that kind of get to know your weaknesses and strengths in a certain field. And so there's a lot coming that will make education better. And I think we should remember that infrastructure is going to become important again in the world. In the past, there was all sorts of things, electricity, dams, all that is necessary to create an infrastructure for AI. And so, thank you.
Okay, you jumped up there, Alan. Thank you very much. Catherine, over to you. 30 seconds, please, and then we'll have to finish this.
I would like to explain the obvious, that collaboration with great minds like we have in this panel is the way forward. With Anne Fay and Alison McMurtry, we agreed to write an essay on the ethics of AI and hyperlearning. And so I'm looking forward to that. And it's important for us to tread lightly. We do have a right to educate, but there are people out there in the world. The Taliban fights hard for it, to slow down. So we have to really keep that balance in mind as we are reaching out, connecting at scale.
Well, thank you very much, Catherine. That is all we've got time for. Thank you to everybody on the panelists. Apologies for overrunning, but we had so much to talk about. Up next, we got some fantastic videos and also another roundtable discussion with the almighty Christopher, who will be coming up as well later on. And also make sure you follow every single person on this panel. Go and follow their LinkedIns, go and connect with them. These are fantastic panelists, one of the coolest panels I've had in a while. So thank you to each and every one of you. And also, don't forget, also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. And that is it from us. So over to the GatherVerse team. And I won't be seeing you next, but Christopher will be. So I'll see you later.
Alan and Catherine, I sent you a LinkedIn request. I'd love to chat more. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.